Κυρίες και κύριοι, χαίρετε. Απόψε η εκπομπή Βουλής Βήμα φιλοξενεί μια εξέχουσα προσωπικότητα. Έναν διορατικό επιστήμονα που προειδοποίησε εγκαίρως για το ζήτημα της κλιματικής αλλαγής. Είναι ο κύριος Χανς Γιόακιμ Σελνχούμπερ, ο οποίος τιμήθηκε από την Ακαδημία Αθηνών. Πρόκειται για τον ιδρυτή του Ινστιτούτου του Πότσδαμ, που ερευνά τις επιπτώσεις της κλιματικής αλλαγής. Mr. Σελνχούμπερ, thank you for being with us. Welcome to Greece, first of all.
It's a pleasure for me to be here.
You are here on the occasion of the projection of the film Mountain Symphonies, and as well you have been already honored by the Academy of Athens. Your feelings about that?
Oh, this is what you always say when you are accepted to a learned society, but this is a very special honor for me, because, you know, this is in a way the mother of all academies, and it goes back to Platon, for example. So it is a special honor. I'm also a member of the US National Academy, for example, Royal Society, German National Academy. But in a way, it is like, for me as a scientist, coming home, you know, to the place where it all started, Western civilization. And I'm just amazed how far Greek thinking was already advanced 2,000 years ago, 2,500 years ago. So being here as a scientist is in a way the biggest honor of my life.
Let's talk about the film. You have shared your impressions after viewing the film. What is the message?
The film is in a way overwhelming, really, yeah? Because you see this personality with so many facets, but let me say two things about it. One is, what really struck me most is the complete absence of hate in a person like Konstantinos Mitsotakis.
Εδώ, από τα πολλά δέντρα, ήταν το λεγόμενο λιμέν, που ήταν οι Άγγλοι. Είχαν τον ασύρματο εδώ πέρα. Ο ασύρματος δεν δουλεύει, χαρασμένος είναι ο ασύρματος. Λέει να το πείτε στο λιφέρμο. Και σε 2 μέρες λέει να πάει ο ασύρματος στα Χανιά. Πρέπει να σιάζει para στα Χανιά, στο Μητσοτάκι να τον φτιάξει. Που δεν άλλο του λέει δεν φτιάχνεται. Πάνε στα Χανιά, ξεφορτώνουν τον ασύρματο. Απάνω που λέγανε να κάνει και ξέρω εγώ, ακούν τις μηχανές και στάμπο. Και ράκουσαν στην πόρτα. Το Μητσοτάκι τον επιάσαν, τον αλυσοδέσανε και τότε τον εδικάσανε εις θάνατο στην Αγιά.
Because he had so many reasons for hating other people, the Germans, the communists, whatever, and he was completely able to avoid hating others and bringing people together in the end.
So this is the approach of the human and the politician.
Yeah, but there are other politicians, in particular today, we see politicians who actually recruit their power by bringing people apart, actually, by polarizing, by splitting societies, yeah? You know, Donald Trump, to give you just one example, his power is based on hate. He's the anti-Mitsotakis of our time, if you like. But let me say a second thing. Bringing people together is one important ability, but sort of reconciling people with nature is the other big message of the movie, also of the film. Because at the very end he says, at the end of his life more or less, the most important thing is that we preserve the environment in which our civilization was created and developed.
Η τελευταία μεγάλη ορειβασία του πατέρα μου ήταν στον Ψιλορίτη. Φύγαμε απόγευμα, κοιμηθήκαμε το βράδυ στο καταφύγιο, κατά τις 2 τη νύχτα, σηκωνόμαστε, μια μεγάλη πομπή ανθρώπων και αρχίζουμε και περπατάμε. Με φακούς στο μέτωπο, κάποιοι δυσκολευόντουσαν να ακολουθήσουν. Είχαν έρθει πιο πολύ για την παρέα και εκείνος το βλέπε και για να μην καθυστερήσουμε, κάθε τόσο έλεγε «Εσύ θα περιμένεις εδώ». 200 μέτρα πιο πέρα, εσύ θα περιμένεις εδώ. Και καθόντουσαν αυτοί βεβαίως πολύ ευχαριστημένοι που είχαν αποφύγει τα χειρότερα. Και τελικά βγήκε μια μικρή ομάδα στην κορφή. Και βγήκαμε ακριβώς λίγο πριν φέξει. Βγάλαν τα κουμπούρια, αρχίσαν τους πυροβολισμούς για να ειδοποιήσουν κάτω στο χωριό ότι είχαμε βγει στην κορφή. Όταν αρχίσαμε να κατεβαίνουμε, κάνει μία έτσι, γυρίζει πίσω, βλέπει το βουνό από πάνω μας και μου λέει «Ευτυχώς που ανεβήκαμε νύχτα και δεν τον είχαμε δει. Αν τον είχαμε δει, δεν νομίζω ότι θα είχαμε ανέβει».
So it's two types of integrations, integrating people and integrating civilization with nature. And that is very similar to what Pope Francis is saying, you know, because I'm advising the Pope on climate issues. And I found many similarities between Konstantinos Mitsotakis and Pope Francis. And I think that's a compliment for both of them.
Do you feel in the film the love for nature through the images of Crete? You are familiar with Crete, you've visited Crete.
Yes. No, it's everywhere in the film. You feel this love for going outdoors and seeing trees and mountains and so on. Actually, I've been to Crete several times and we are friends there. This spring I've been to Crete. We only made a small gorge, actually the Kritsa gorge, which is in the eastern part. I never made it to Samaria gorge, but I've seen the pictures. I will go there for sure.
The money from the movie are going to be offered for the protection of a special tree. How important is for everyone to understand that special species should be protected and that apart from the big image, you know, the big things, there are small, little things that each one can do for the climate?
I mean, in the end, you know, it has been said already in 1992 at the Rio conference, think global, act local. I have to think global. I do research on the climate system as a whole, and I use supercomputers and mathematical formula. I need to see the big picture on the one hand. But when you look at this picture, it often makes you very depressed because you see the problems and they are so big. In order to become inspired and enthusiastic again, you need to look at the little things and you have to do the little things. It is empowering yourself if you make a small step, but in the right direction. You cannot always achieve the far distant goals, but
You can add.
the small things keep you going, and they revigorate you and invigorate you. But of course it's important that you know where are you going. So you need the global vision, you always need it, but the energy is really recruited from the small things in the end. The problem is that many people only see the small things or only the big things. And the real art is to combine the two things all the time. When we are sitting here, I also have to look at the whole architecture. It's fantastic. But when I have to refocus on you, for example, so it is both dimensions you have to integrate in the end.
So, Konstantinos Mitsotakis was a leader with a vision. And do we have leaders with a vision, a long-term thinking today? Because I know that you are an advisor of Chancellor Angela Merkel.
I mean, we have very few, I would say. Many people in power today actually even ridicule long-term vision. They say, I don't give you any vision. I give you money, I give you a benefit, whatever. These populist sort of fantasies that if you forget about tomorrow, you can not only survive, you can become rich and so on. And of course, all this will fail. But there are few people in the world who have a longer-term vision. A non-politician clearly is Pope Francis in this case. I think Merkel, Macron, a few others.
They listen to you?
They listened.
And after listening, do they take action?
They tried to do action, and this is the interesting thing. Actually, I was part of a very important commission in Germany about to end the use of coal power, you know. I know this debate is also going on here in Greece, lignite coal
Yes.
and so on, and we came up with a compromise. And what I learned is, of course, you have scientific evidence, economic evidence, experts advising the chancellor, the prime minister, whoever. Now, if you have enlightened leaders, they want to implement this, but they can only do it, and that brings us back to the small things, if they have the support of civil society, of the public. So you need many, many small voices in order to create a big choir or a wave on which the political leaders can surf in the end. And that's what I learned when talking to Merkel, for example. She said, yes, I would like to do it, but my party will not follow.
Yes,
But
this is a problem.
But now with, you know, the young people in the streets,
They are demonstrating.
Fridays for Future and so on, the enlightened politicians take heart again and become encouraged by that and say, I'm not only hearing the voices of, no, this doesn't work, no, I don't want this, but the voices of millions of people now say, please deliver on our goals.
My message to all the politicians around the world is the same.
Climate action! Now!
Listen to the science and act on the science.
Some are skeptics towards climate change, if it's true, if it's a new Green Deal for the big industries, if a child like Greta Thunberg can talk spontaneously on this climate change, or if this is not for her age. What's your opinion on that?
I mean,
and did she help?
First of all, let's say, isn't it a shame that you need a 15 or 16-year-old girl to talk about the truth? I mean, all those so-called experts and professionals, I mean, based on the scientific system, they could have drawn their own conclusions, but they didn't. So the skepticism comes in two parts, and that's very important. There was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, there was scientific skepticism. Is it really true that we are changing the climate? What will be the impact? Will it be so bad? Is it a problem at all? But this has completely vanished now. Today, we clearly have overwhelming majorities of scientists. So there is no quarrel, there is no discussion anymore. In other parts of life, you know, medical sciences, you do not have that clear consensus like we have in climate science. When you talk about cancer treatment, where you may have only a 70% probability, we have a 99% probability. So you cannot get it better when it is. The skepticism now has shifted to the part, what can we do about it? Or can we do anything about it? And where you have this very, very dangerous attitude creeping in, so to speak, that it's too late already, you know? First you say, not yet, too early. When you say, still too early, too early. And when you say too late, it's not too late, but we have lost precious time.
And when is the tipping point?
I think in 10 years or so.
In 10 years from
I think
now.
in 10 years, if we do business as usual, a little bit of climate action here or there, a little bit of renewable energies, you know, if we waste the coming decade, 2020 to 2030, and we cannot bend the emission curve and renewables curve upwards, then we will have lost the game. And we will probably end up in a world which is 3, 4, 5 degrees warmer. And this would mean that huge parts of the Mediterranean become a desert. I'm serious about it. I just saw a new publication where, in particular, Spain will become part of the Sahara. I mean, Greece is not that bad. Italy is a little bit better, but it is in the same direction. So it's really dreadful.
Do you feel sometimes that people do not believe you and that you are alone in this procedure? And how was it like on 1995 when you were talking about the temperature and the 2 degrees? What they were saying, what he's saying?
Yeah, it's a strange phenomenon. Actually, at that time, many more people listened to me than 10 years ago, because at that time it was a distant threat, you know. So people were curious about it. It was even entertainment. So you talked about climate change and said, oh, interesting, there's this theory, what might it do? People were not scared about it. So they listened to you just as if you talk about quantum theory or black holes or distant galaxies in the universe. So science is entertainment, you know. They didn't take it serious.
It was a very, very long threat.
It was just beyond the horizon. Now, 10 years ago, you know, I was at this miserable conference in Copenhagen in 2009 as member of the German delegation. It completely failed. And then something started, when the so-called climate skeptics came up and the fossil industry funded a lot of campaigns against the science. Why? Because we felt, oh, this is not distant anymore. Now we are approaching the end game. We either do something against it, and
or we will face it,
or we will.
In a disastrous.
But it was millions and millions of dollars were poured into this skepticism channel at the time. So my life as a scientist was most miserable around 2010, actually. That was the turning point, and now I'm not anymore. Of course, I still get death threats more or less every day.
Really?
By email, whatever. No, this is my everyday life, really.
Why is that?
Yeah, because they say I'm making it all up in order that people are not allowed to drive cars anymore. You know, I'm threatening the business as usual. And some of them are complete idiots, of course. Others are just hateful people. By the way,
that has changed your life?
It was, the worst thing was around 2010, 2011. And actually at that time, I thought about quitting science, really, because my family was threatened and so on. It was very bad, actually. It was a very dark period of my life, but I decided to get through it and to get on with my things. I feel more comfortable now, and I more or less ignore these things. But you know, you never know. It may be that if I take a walk in the middle of the night, that somebody will shoot at me. It can still happen.
The good news is that India and China are taking measures. The bad news is how US reacts towards climate change. How does this affect the big picture?
Yeah, first of all, it's a tragedy because, you know, many debates about climate change started in the United States. So Jim Hansen in 1988 gave sort of a speech in the Senate, U.S. Senate, and talked about global warming and that humankind is sort of causing it. So many initiatives, Al Gore, of course, and others came from the U.S. So in a way, it's always said to lose a good friend. But the other thing is the US are not so important anymore. I mean, they are still a huge emitter, but the real future of the climate, and by the way, of our civilization, will be decided in China and India. If China and India move into a greener industrial system, then this will, in a way, affect the climate in a most decisive way. But there is a second effect. If America is sort of missing this train, this green train, their competitiveness will weaken. And actually it might mean they will lose their global technical and market leadership, actually. I do believe, actually, that China will be the leading power in the world, not in military terms, but in terms of innovation. And so I think the Americans will come to deeply regret that they are not part of the Paris Agreement anymore.
The European Green Deal is Europe's new growth strategy. We have to act now.
The European Commission has prepared 3 concrete actions that will offer a strong basis for the New Deal.
I want Europe to become the first climate-neutral continent in the world by 2050.
Real benefits include zero pollution, affordable and secure energy, smarter transport, and high-quality food.
A Just Transition Fund will leverage public and private money, including with the help of the European Investment Bank.
All these will contribute to a global Green Deal. No one will be left behind.
We will deliver a sustainable Europe investment plan.
Our €1 trillion of investment would give investors confidence to make long-term decisions on environmentally responsible projects. This will mean new jobs, a cleaner environment, and a better quality of life for people.
We Europeans are ready.
For Germany, the end of the lignite period is on 2038. For Greece, is on 2028.
28, yes, I know.
Why this gap?
Yeah.
Is it too soon for Greece? Is it too late for Germany? And there is a criticism why a small country like Greece should go so fast and a big country like Germany should go later.
Yeah. Now, first of all, you have to, of course, look at how much lignite is very used currently in the German energy system. I mean, Germany had a tremendous success in moving from coal and nuclear in particular to renewable energy. So it's a dramatic change. But because we had so much base load and so much capital involved in the lignite and the coal industry, hard coal and lignite, it is a monumental change, really. Yeah? I was part of this coal commission and I argued, of course, that we should end coal power by 2030, so 3-0. But you know, it's always a balance. We had in particular the trade unions and they were completely against that. My belief is that because of the market forces, we will exit coal much earlier than 2038. Because already now they are creating a lot of losses, economic losses. So the big power stations are not making any profit anymore in Germany.
So they have to change earlier?
They will change much earlier. Now, is it too early for Greece? No, not at all. First of all, lignite doesn't play such a big role in your industry and in your domestic energy supply, but also, I mean, you have the best thing in the world, that is sunshine, of course, and you have wind in the Aegean Sea and so on. But, I mean, whenever you walk across the Greek landscape or you fly over it, whatever, you do a ship cruise, I mean, the potential is unparalleled in the world almost. So, you know, people always talk about the crisis, and of course the financial crisis was very hard for you, and now you are slowly moving out of it. The question is, where do you move out of a crisis? Going backwards or forward? The crisis is precisely a point in time where you can overcome the old system. So it would be foolish to just hang on to the fossil industry. With your potential, you can directly go to the renewables.
But natural gas is a transition period, is a solution?
I don't think so. I mean, we talked about US, and the US is deeply involved in fracking gas, not because of climate protection and so on. It was a business case. First of all, it will end in 20 years from now and so on, because when all the resources will be exhausted. But you know, if you burn gas, you create a lot of CO2. It's not as bad as coal, but still it's too bad, actually. I mean, we talked about the critical period, the critical decade. So in 2030, in the more advanced countries in the world, including the European ones, we should more or less get rid of oil and gas and coal completely, at least for the domestic sector. You will still have the challenge to produce steel, for example, and glass and chemicals. So that may take another decade. But where you will use hydrogen. So I would say, yes, there is a good gas. It's not the natural gas, we call it. It's hydrogen, of course. And I think there is a golden opportunity for Greece to become one of the leading hydrogen producers in Europe.
So this brings us to policies, and policies in what has to do with Greece. What did the Prime Minister said to you, Mr. Mitsotakis? Kyriakos this time, because we were talking in the beginning about Konstantinos Mitsotakis.
No, it's the second time I talked to him. I talked to him already in the spring of this year, before he became Prime Minister. And it was, of course, about renewable energies. And actually, I think a very interesting debate is what type of renewables are the most appropriate for Greece. So, for example, we have the same type of discussion in Germany. Is it wind or solar? Because with wind turbines, you can change the landscape. Some people don't like it.
They don't like it.
And I can understand it in a way.
Especially on the mountains, you understand this is
because you have this wonderful landscape. And in the end, if you
there is a protest here in Greece concerning the mountains.
It's everywhere. And you see, maybe you don't need this type of battle, because in the end, we know that solar will win. Solar energy is much superior to wind energy in the end. Why? Because a solar cell can be as small as this. You can put it on your pocket, whatever, or you can fill an entire football field with it. A wind turbine always has to be very high, otherwise it's not efficient. So we call it scaling, so to speak. And so solar energy in the end will win. So I would say try to go as much as possible, and I said this to the Prime Minister, go as much as possible for solar, but don't forget about storage, you know, batteries, things like that, electromobility, or hydrogen, for example, for the production of steel, aluminium, and so on. But I think the sun is what is the leading star for Greece. You are a sunshine country. The ancient Greek adored the sun, and you have to just reinvent the sun as your leading star. That's what I told him.
So, to those who say, oh, you're exaggerating, what's the dilemma? What's your response?
I think we have no choice. Actually, we are, and this feels in particular very peculiar if you are here. You see, Western civilization really started here in Attica over 2,500 years, even before in Crete a little bit, but really here in Greece. And according to our calculations, our civilization could end by the end of this century if we don't do anything. I even think the chances to overcome the crisis is not very high, but everything is at stake. Now, I give you one example. I mean, if you would be told by a doctor that your child is very ill, it's a deadly illness, but there is a therapy, but there is only a 20% chance that the child will survive if you use the therapy.
Of course.
Would you walk away and say, no, I don't do it?
Nobody would do
20% is not enough for me. Well, you have to use the 20%.
Thank you very much for this conversation.
You're welcome. A pleasure.
Καθώς αποχαιρετούσαμε τον καθηγητή Σελνχούμπερ, τα μέλη της Επιτροπής Περιβάλλοντος της Βουλής ενημερώνονταν για το Εθνικό Σχέδιο για την Ενέργεια και το Κλίμα, που αποτελεί τον βασικό πυλώνα της ενεργειακής πολιτικής της επόμενης δεκαετίας και θα λειτουργήσει ως οδικός χάρτης της μακροπρόθεσμης στρατηγικής για το 2050. Όπως ανέφερε ο Υφυπουργός Περιβάλλοντος και Ενέργειας, αρμόδιος για θέματα ενέργειας και φυσικών πόρων, Γεράσιμος Θωμάς, οι στόχοι που θέτει το Εθνικό Σχέδιο συμβαδίζουν απόλυτα με το νέο European Green Deal, το οποίο παρουσιάστηκε πρόσφατα από την Ευρωπαϊκή Επιτροπή και ιδιαίτερα με τον στόχο επίτευξης κλιματικής ουδετερότητας έως το 2050, ο οποίος επικυρώθηκε από το Ευρωπαϊκό Συμβούλιο. Σύμφωνα με τους εθνικούς στόχους, με ορίζοντα το 2030, η μείωση των εκπομπών αερίων του θερμοκηπίου αυξάνεται κατά 55% σε σχέση με το 2005. Ακόμη, αυξάνεται η διείσδυση των ανανεώσιμων πηγών ενέργειας στην ακαθάριστη τελική κατανάλωση ενέργειας σε 35% έναντι 18% που είναι σήμερα. Επίσης, προγραμματίζεται η απεξάρτηση της οικονομίας από τον λιγνίτη έως το 2028. Το φυσικό αέριο τοποθετείται σε ρόλο μεταβατικού καυσίμου. Ταυτόχρονα επιταχύνονται οι διαδικασίες για τη μετάβαση και πλήρη λειτουργία του νέου μοντέλου αγοράς ηλεκτρικής ενέργειας. Επιπροσθέτως, επιτυγχάνεται το χρονοδιάγραμμα της ολοκλήρωσης των ενεργειακών υποδομών με στόχο την επίτευξη της επιθυμητής διείσδυσης των ανανεώσιμων πηγών ενέργειας στο ενεργειακό μείγμα. Ενισχύεται η ασφάλεια ενεργειακού εφοδιασμού με τη διερεύνηση της διαφοροποίησης των ενεργειακών πηγών και προμηθευτών από τρίτες χώρες και τη βέλτιστη αξιοποίηση των εγχώριων ενεργειακών πηγών. Με την εξωστρεφή ενεργειακή πολιτική που υιοθετείται, αναδεικνύεται η Ελλάδα ως ενεργειακός κόμβος στα Βαλκάνια και την ευρύτερη νοτιοανατολική Ευρώπη, θεσπίζοντας και εξαγωγές ηλεκτρικής ενέργειας όσο προχωρά η διείσδυση των ανανεώσιμων πηγών ενέργειας.